having had a direct conversation with my own higher mind in the form of telepathy instead of just symbolism and feelings, emotions, and all sorts of more subtle guidance that you get from the higher mind, I also had the experience where I actually got a conversation in plain English with the higher mind. So I have a pretty good idea about, or at least more than most people, how the higher mind works and operates, because I could gauge that from that whole conversation, which I talk about in some other videos, which are called ET Encounter, because ETs were also involved in that episode, as you know if you follow this channel. But in this video I will discuss and talk about your relationship to the higher mind, to your higher mind, and how this relationship works and how it operates and how you can sort of trust it and make it guide you and allow it to guide you without worrying too much in life. Because many people are scared of acting on their highest excitement because they don't think they can be supported in it, or they have fears and doubts about doing that, or even just doing pretty much anything, or making any kind of decision that is out of the ordinary, you might say. So most people, or many people, they kind of sell out early on in life, and they just follow and do whatever is expected from parents or society, and just take that route of getting an education and a job and play it safe, kind of. You don't really take the education you actually want. Maybe you just take something your parents want you to do, or something that they sort of expect because they're taken the same education or something like that. Many people don't choose with the heart, and choice is the most important thing in this life, which I'm also going to talk about in this video, because each choice you make makes big changes for how the higher mind operates, or how it can support you. And each choice contains a vibration that is either higher or lower than your current state of being or current level of consciousness, right? So acting on your highest excitement means that you actually are making choices of a higher vibration than your current norm level or current base level. And by doing that, by continuously making higher vibrational choices than your current state, you basically shift yourself into a higher vibrational and higher level of consciousness version of yourself, because that's how reality works. You're actually shifting through all these frames of different versions of yourself throughout life. And if you make negative choices, or choices based in anger or low level emotions, then obviously you can lower your vibration. If you consistently do this over time, you will lower the vibration and lower your level of consciousness. Although the higher mind will do anything it can to support you not to go down the negative path. But the negative collective ego will definitely try to support you and create synchronicities for you to go down the negative path. So each choice you make is important, as small as in big, because they all add up to basically change you into a higher vibrational version of yourself by each choice. But here is the thing. The higher mind has complete overview of the path you're supposed to go through in life, and the path always leads upwards towards ever higher expressions of who you are and of beingness and level of consciousness. So the only thing that can stop you is all the programming that's been instilled in you since birth, which the negative collective ego will use all the weaknesses in you to sort of hold you back or trap you in traps where you actually make bad choices because you get upset or something. So that basically adds up to the spiritual journey or the life journey. And the higher mind has complete overview. So whatever choice you make, it's like Google Maps. That's how you should see it. If you ever use Google Maps to drive to get somewhere you want to go, but then you took the wrong turn, then Google Maps always automatically creates a new path for you that leads to the same destination, but it might take a longer time, or you can make a U-turn or whatever. But the point is, that's exactly how the higher mind works. It can see all probable choices and even possible choices you will make in the future as well as in the now, and it knows how to subtly guide you onto the path you're supposed to take. And if you somehow or sometimes make a so-called mistake or take a wrong turn, so-called, which is not really wrong anyway because it's still an experience, then the higher mind will automatically have a new path that leads you back to the original path, so to speak, or to the same destination eventually, automatically ready for you, even if you make unexpected choices. And unexpected choices and free will is the whole point. That's what keeps the game entertaining for the higher minds and the oversouls and even God himself, who basically is watching a multidimensional movie, right? Without free will, without unexpected choices, there would be no challenge for these higher levels, and there would be no entertainment value for God. Because in my view, God is basically in the entertainment business. It's all a big entertainment show, and then it starts all over again once the whole universe collapses into a singularity and a new one is created, or and then you basically see how it plays out that time around, over all those eons of almost endless amount of years between universes, cycles like that. But the point is, the higher mind always has your back, no matter what you do. I've made some pretty drastic life choices in my life, also negative ones. You might, or based from negative states of mind. I'm probably going to make a video later about my whole journey, including everything, because it can be quite interesting for people to hear, I guess. But the point is, even though I made those choices, I was always supported, and I ended up getting back on my feet, so to speak, and getting on the right path again. So I learned from my conversation with the higher mind. It revealed how it sort of operates in a kind of subtle way, and that's the essence of how it operates. It always has all these options, all these alternative routes that you can take if you make this choice or make that choice. Because think of it like this: there is an endless version of Earths and an endless version of you. So each choice will lead you into another version of you, no matter what, right? Even when you die, you're still you, just shift into a different dimension. So any choice you take is always going to lead to another version of you. It cannot not do that, right? And as long as you try to make positive choices and act on your highest excitement, which means you're acting on or making choices of a higher vibration than you actually are at, usually, then the path will lead or spiral upwards towards ever higher levels of consciousness and vibration, which is what life is meant to be like. It's meant to be like a hero's journey where you spiral upwards and go on adventures to spiral upwards and deal with inner resistance and inner negativity to get reflections from life, and that's how it's supposed to be. But on this planet it's been very stagnated for a long time into deep negativity and deep limitation, because the negative collective ego has grown itself so strong over time that its grip on the collective mass consciousness has been so massive that it's been really, really challenging to get out of that quagmire, so to speak, which is why we have so many volunteers from higher levels that are already basically fourth density beings who have come here as volunteers for this massive shift of mass consciousness, which is imminent in the near future. And all these volunteers, which I am one of those volunteers, they come from fourth density worlds or dimensions, or even higher than that. And that's why they come in usually with the highest level of consciousness as an incarnation level. Usually in the 300s if you're fourth density, maybe higher. It's very different if you come in with in on a low level, like you're born in level of consciousness 200 or 150 or whatever. Then your chances are not really high because you don't have the soul thirst or the spiritual hunger that you have when you're born high in the 300s, and then you're forced down into the lower levels, maybe below 200 for a while too, because of the negativity of the mass consciousness and your parents and the surroundings. But you still have this hunger and thirst for spiritual nourishment or soul nourishment that low-level souls or third density and deep third density souls usually don't have, which is also why they don't really such low-level souls are not really receptive for energies from high-level satsang teachers and enlightened teacher, because they don't have the soul sensitivity to receive that kind of nourishment at those low levels. While if you're temporarily stuck at those low levels because of the programming, but you have a higher incarnation level because you're a higher density soul than third density, your fourth density, for example, which most of the volunteers are, then you will be very thirsty and very hungry for the nourishment from an enlightened teacher and the energy field they create, because that will directly resonate with your soul matrix and really benefit you on your journey. So the point is that it's very, very safe to act on your highest excitement, because God is in the entertainment business, okay? He doesn't want you to just go around in the same routine necessarily, depending on, obviously some people have that kind of life also, but if you have a calling for adventure and calling for certain things, for things that excite you, but you're held back by negative beliefs or people's expectations, it's very safe to act on those things, because that's what's entertaining for the higher minds and God himself. Because then you're actually you're going on a path that's unpredictable, because if you just do what everybody else does, then you're caught in a karmic groove that goes around and around and around, and it's extremely predictable, and it's easy to manage for the higher minds. They don't have to do much because it basically goes by itself, right? But you sort of, when you start acting on your highest excitement and make bold choices like that, you become like a live one. They finally get a live one on, to see, okay, let's see how will this go? I mean, how will this person handle the challenges and the choices that are coming? Will he continue on his journey? Will he stagnate? What will happen? Will he, it becomes entertaining. That's why people who do that get special attention kind of from the higher mind levels, because they don't have to do much for the people caught in the karmic grooves of routine life. So that's why they also say that destiny favors the bold, because boldness and having that courage to go your own path and act on your highest excitement like that is the whole point. It's, that's what they will support as best they can, because that is have such high entertainment value, and it also is how you actually use life like it's meant to be used. But you will always be supported, because the higher mind can see all possible and probable choices you will make and what that will lead to, and it already has the whole map with all the alternative routes in front of itself, you might say. And it can just easily shift whatever choice you make. It can always shift you back to the path or back to the main path if you took a detour or something, which is not uncommon. So that's why it's super safe to act on your highest excitement. There's nothing to be afraid of, really. But initially it might be scary because it takes you into the unknown. Instead of having a predictable life, your life becomes highly unpredictable, like the hero's journey in movies. Like, heroes go through in movies. The whole hero's journey thing is very unpredictable because you're taken into a new adventure, kind of upside down reality, which is a reflection of your own unconscious mind, which you're diving into your own unconscious mind to fight the enemy, which is the negative beliefs and resistances, and the arch enemy, which is the core negative ego, or the unworthiness complex that sits at the center of your artificial personality construct and deep in the unconscious, which is basically the final boss, or the arch villain represented in movies, right? Life is supposed to be a hero's journey. That's how regular. I mean, in a more healthy system or planet, then every life is a hero's journey. Doesn't mean you have to be extremely daring in each life, obviously, but there is an upward spiraling path, and unpredictability and synchronicity, and you're acting from always on the highest excitement, which leads to new things. And it's never boring if your life goes like that, but it's boring if you're stuck in a routine that you don't really like, because that's what happens to most people. If you sell out like that early in life, like most do, instead of actually having the guts to act on your highest excitement and go your own path, you will get stuck in some kind of routine life, that's for sure. Although the higher minds can still throw in curveballs, or the negative ego can, or collective negative ego can also throw in curveballs and create problems or whatnot, even for in routine lives, sometimes to shake up that routine and try to wake people up and make them take different choices. But the fast track to higher levels of consciousness, you have to act on your highest excitement. You have to be willing to trust that the higher mind has your back and will support those choices, which you always make more and more high level choices, because each high level choice you make sort of establishes you into a higher level of consciousness, which makes you even more higher choices available to you. So that's how you work yourself up in the levels of consciousness. And obviously you also have to face negativity and resistances as they come up as you move through the path like this. And you also have to use the reflections from the manifested reality to see and look at those negativities in your system, instead of try not to blame the mirror for what you see, right? And actually take responsibility for it. That's cannot sometimes be not so easy, but that's basically what you need to do to be responsible enough to graduate for higher levels. And that's the journey, that's how it works. And I really hope that we will soon see a reality in which this becomes like the norm. I think it's going to be a big, at some point, I think within hopefully next year in 2023, which has been a target year for Bashar, has talked about 2023 as the new target. I think that 2020 was the previous target, but 2023 is now the new target for triggering what will be a renaissance and a mass awakening of humanity. And then acting on your highest excitement will become like the norm, and when everybody does it, or at least the majority does it, it creates such synchronicity, and basically the whole of humanity can very, very quickly increase their collective level of consciousness to completely new levels by doing it like this. And then a lot of people who have been doing it for a while already, like myself, is going to step into different teacher roles and mentor roles to guide whoever is around in a kind of decentralized way, because the whole idea about keeping this planet down in the negative levels, which the dark cabal is trying to do, has not really worked all that well. The whole pandemic thing is sort of fizzled out. It's not really, doesn't have the grip of the population anymore, because people have seen through it now, at least most people. So that whole agenda they have of keeping the mass consciousness very low has failed, because the mass consciousness is still pretty high. It's still in the higher 400s, because of all the volunteers who came here to keep the mass consciousness high through this planned chaos, which was planned and meant to bring the mass consciousness very low, so these dark cabal people could basically go through with their dark agenda of totally enslaving the whatever was left of the population, because they probably meant for billions of people to die during these diseases they release and whatnot. But none of that has played out as they planned, because the mass consciousness is kept too high. And negative collective ego is really desperate these days to create conflict and negativity between people, so you have to be aware of that in relationships with anyone. It's always looking to do that, because it's basically feels threatened by the higher the level of mass consciousness go, the more threatened the collective negative ego becomes, which is the collective shadow or collective Lucifer, as I call it. Because it cannot really survive with no negativity. There is no food source anymore, and it cannot survive without negativity. And this planet has been a farm for these fourth density negative beings, who basically use human beings as a farm animals, like in the Matrix, to harvest negativity and create negativity by giving people negative impulses and thoughts and exploiting their negative ego complex in all sorts of ways, in unseen ways and subtle ways. But this whole extremely negative system is coming to an end very soon. I think it's going to be an explosion of basically awakenings all over the planet, and in a very decentralized response to the centrally planned negativity, because you can't stop decentralized communities and teachers and high-level beings all over the planet cropping up all over the planet at the same time, as there is a mass awakening among regular humans. And they are there to guide and help and basically lift them up with their energy field, which is going to happen all together in a big, very quickly, and surprisingly for the dark cabal, they will not understand how this can happen, and boom, suddenly the whole reality shifts into a completely new reality, a new world, because they cannot stop that decentralized response with their centrally planned nonsense anymore, because it hasn't worked and it's backfiring, because humanity is actually waking up from it. Regular people are now seeing and questioning the narratives and seeing through the whole agenda about the vaccine and whatnot. So the whole thing is backfired, and there still might be some dark things happening in the coming time as desperate measures to try to keep or get the mass consciousness low, but it's not going to succeed either. So we are basically just waiting for that breakthrough to come, and that's when things will start to make sense, and people are getting, and myself included, are getting kind of impatient, because it's been a long, hard life to get here, and you sort of sense that it was planned to happen in 2020, so now we are kind of on overtime. A couple of years, but that's not really that much when you think about it in the big picture of things. A couple of years, give or take, is not that much, right? But people are getting impatient. I can sense it, and myself too. I'm tired of waiting for it. I want to get started with the real deal, and the mission we basically came here for. That's actually the fun part of the mission. The not so fun part is soon to be over, hopefully, because that's been going through and digging through all that negativity to get to a level where you actually can hold the mass consciousness and contribute to the high level of mass consciousness. But when you stick out like a sore thumb for the negative ego like that, then you're constantly being attacked either by people around you, which represent the negative ego, because it works through people who are not very conscious, or you are getting basically attacked directly by the negative ego, which will look and exploit any kind of weakness or thing that, from the past or whatever. So if you feel like you're under attack these days, or you don't understand why there is you get so many negative thoughts or emotions and whatnot, then it most likely is because the negative ego is desperate in trying to win the battle, which it's now losing big time. So it's dying desperation of a dying animal, cornered dying animal basically. And it will not go on for too much longer, and hopefully we will get started with the fun part in 2023, when there will be a big renaissance and celebration and awakening, and we will get a lot more direct support from ETs and our own higher minds, and that's when the real fun will start, and I really hope it's going to happen next year.